Let me thank all of you for being here this morning in what I believe to be an historic hearing. Those words probably get used more frequently than they should, but I believe this is historic. And that the three witnesses are with us this morning. I don't believe have ever appeared jointly before this committee, or for that matter, any other committee that I know of. At least we've gone back and looked at the records where we've had the Secretary of Housing, the Secretary of Transportation, and the Administrator for the Environmental Protection Agency together at one hearing on a common theme. So we thank all three of our secretaries for being with us, and we thank the audience that's come out this morning, and I thank my colleagues for joining us here. Senator Shelby may be able to get by. We're not sure yet this morning, and other members who are interested in the subject matter. Today's title of a hearing is the Greener Communities, Greater Opportunities, New Ideas for Sustainable Development and Economic Growth. This is an important subject matter, and all three of our witnesses have wonderful backgrounds and knowledge and expertise in this area. So I want to begin by thanking all three of you for being here this morning and participating in this hearing and in this discussion of how we move forward. So let me thank you for joining us. I hope all had a painless commute, by the way, this morning. But if you didn't, I can understand entirely. I'm from Connecticut, and Connecticut has a long history of understanding what it is to have a painful commute. And although we love our state, we know something about rough commutes. Take I-95, the main corridor that runs through southern Connecticut. Over the last 50 years, average daily traffic in the Connecticut Southwest corridor has increased more than sevenfold. Give you some idea of the problems. Imagine you're on your way home from a hard day at the office, and when you get there, your children are hopefully waiting for dinner, but at the rate traffic is moving, you're just hoping you might get there in time for breakfast in the morning. For 20 minutes, 45 minutes, over an hour, you grit your teeth, grip the wheel harder as traffic crawls slowly along the highway. The air is clouded with exhaust from what seems like millions of cars barely moving at almost $3 a gallon. And things won't get any easier when you and your fellow motorists slowly grind along the same road to work the following morning. So welcome to the daily commute for far too many of residents in my state and many, many others across this country. It's not unique to Connecticut. It's becoming not unique at all. It's becoming more the standard. So if you know me at all, you know how I feel about the importance of new transit options. I've been a longtime advocate for the Tri-City Corridor that will connect new transit villages, get people off the roads, and revitalize our regional economies. We'll accomplish this by initiating new commuter rail service and at 110-mile-an-hour intercity train service between New Haven, Connecticut, Springfield, Massachusetts, with direct connections to New York City and eventually Boston as well. This project is one of my top priorities, as it is for the Connecticut delegation here as well as the people in our state. And to use this as an example, again, of densely populated areas and alternative modes of transportation. But our communities are growing and changing, and too often our approach to community development policy has been like one of those cars on the Merritt Parkway in Connecticut, trapped and gridlocked, never moving. It's time to rethink the way we plan the futures of the places in which we live, work, and raise our families. Between 1980 and 2000, the growth of the largest 99 metro areas in the United States consumed 16 million acres of rural land. That's about an acre for every new household. And with new population expected to grow by over 150 million people between 2000 and 2050, this land use trend simply cannot continue for all the obvious reasons. Before today, federal policy has often treated transportation, housing, and environmental protection as separate issues, distinct from each other. But that system of stovepiping simply isn't working, and the consequences of failing to address the way we plan our communities' growth are many. We'll continue to lose our rural land and open spaces. We'll see a worsening of the traffic congestion that has tripled over the last 25 years. We'll continue to pay more and more at the pump at a time when our family budgets are already stretched to the max. We'll continue to push lower-income families further away from job opportunities. We'll continue to increase greenhouse gas emissions despite the urgent threat of climate change. In February, I wrote a letter to President Obama urging him to establish a White House Office of Sustainable Development to coordinate housing, transportation, energy, and environmental policies. The President has been a strong leader on these issues, and he has already shown a willingness to shake up a federal government that hasn't always succeeded when it comes to addressing related issues in a comprehensive, effective, holistic way. Today, following up on that letter, we've invited 3 members of the Cabinet who don't usually spend as much time in the same hearing room as they should, in my view. They'll be outlining for us the administration's commitment to sustainable development, a commitment that recognizes the importance of working across traditional boundaries to create more cohesive and collaborative policies. One important piece of the work that we have to do is to provide more transportation choices for families in our nation. Few states suffer from worse traffic congestion than my home state of Connecticut does, and the lack of good transit options cost families more than just inconvenience. In large part due to congested roadways and the lack of affordable housing and transit options, Connecticut ranks 49th in the country in keeping our young people in the state. Meanwhile, living in a transit-rich neighborhood saves money, on average, as much as 10% of a family's budget. This is particularly important for those living on fixed incomes or struggling to get by in a tough economy as people are today. Improving transportation isn't just about making a daily commute easier. It's about empowering people to access jobs and critical services and making things just a little bit easier for those on a very tight budget. It's a problem that hurts not only the quality of life for our citizens, but also opportunities for businesses. So we must improve and expand bus and rail service, providing new choices for families who would no longer have to drive to work and creating space on a road for those who do. And we need to build more and better housing options near these transit stations. For instance, my state has developed a program called Home Connecticut. It makes grants available to towns to plan incentive housing zones for higher density mixed income housing in downtown areas and redeveloped brownfields close to transit options and job centers. It's a strategic investment in our economy, our environment, and the quality of our life in Connecticut. We've already begun to make progress in my state, and we can do more, I believe, across the country with similar models. This committee is currently drafting legislation to provide incentives for regions to plan future growth in a coordinated way that reduces congestion, generates good-paying jobs, meets our environmental and energy goals, protects rural areas and green space, revitalizes our main streets and urban centers, creates and preserves affordable housing, and makes our communities better places to live, to work, and to raise our families. Our bill will also create a competitive grant program to provide resources to some of the projects identified in this planning. There's a lot we can do in this committee in this area, and I look forward to continuing to work alongside my colleague, Senator Shelby, the former chairman of the committee, and our colleagues on this committee, many of whom care as deeply about this issue as I do, both Democrats and Republicans who are facing these issues, not just in urban areas of the East and West Coast, but even in our western, Midwestern states where congestion is accumulating around urban areas. It's often a great trivia question to ask people, what's the most urbanized state in America? And you'll get all sorts of answers. Rarely is the answer given Nevada, but that is the most urbanized state in America, with roughly 90 to 95% of its population residing in one county, of course, Clark County around Las Vegas. So these issues are not just East Coast, West Coast any longer. Every state in the country, to one degree or another, is facing these challenges. And so what we're advocating here is not something just for those states that are facing the most serious problems today, but also planning for what we can down the road. Just like I've urged the administration to, I believe we in the Senate must work in a coordinated and comprehensive fashion as well if we're going to succeed in this effort. In particular, this committee will need to work closely with Senator Barbara Boxer of California's EPW committee and Senator Jay Rockefeller of West Virginia's Commerce Committee as we write the next surface transportation bill, legislation that I hope will eliminate the stovepipes that I mentioned at the outside of this hearing within transportation policy and ensure that it helps to advance broad, good-related to not just transportation, but community development, economic growth, energy, and environmental issues. Today we'll hear from witnesses who have already begun the important collaborative effort within the administration, public servants who are doing a tremendous job, in my view, and I commend all 3 of you for the first 6 months of efforts. Some of us had the pleasure already with Sean Donovan, who's been in my state of Connecticut, my major cities, talking about housing and transportation issues. Ray LaHood has been, I know, around the country as well, discussing these issues as well and working with Sean. And Lisa, we welcome you as well in your tremendous efforts in the environmental policies as well. This administration is today making a significant and welcomed commitment to sustainable development and livable communities. And we're eager this morning to discuss how we on this committee can be better partners in helping our communities plan for a much more prosperous and enjoyable future.